Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard to the new episode of Dropkicks and Attractions podcast here on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Stitcher, everywhere. You cannot get rid of us. I am, of course, the Prince of Pop Culture, the host with the most, and the prettiest one out of the two, Xander Victus, and I am, of course, joined by my good, close personal friend and personal driver, Big Boct. How are you, sir?
I'm doing just fine today. Are you doing okay, too?
I'm alive. I have many work days ahead of me. Not a lot of 3 days. We got multiple groups of 3 days of work ahead of me, so.
I picked up some weekend hours, and I've also got some long shifts, too.
Yeah, same. Just, you guys know how it is. I know it seems like we're super rich and powerful, Adam Carolla, Joe Rogan level podcasters. Not yet. Give us a couple weeks.
We'll get there.
Eventually. Okay. Once again, thank you, everybody, for all the great reception we got off of WrestleMania 9, our first episode of Season 2. We actually had better reactions and receptions and views on both YouTube and Rumble than we got on some of our previous episodes from our last season. So I'm very excited about that. So especially thanks to all the love people from Rumble.
Thank you much.
For those that weren't there for the non-pay-per-view episodes, we're going to do... A lot of it's the same. We're going to talk about a lot of the stuff we're watching now, working on watching. We'll get into the television wrestling. And then we like to give the top 5 Billboard songs and the top 5 movie releases so you guys can kind of see where pop culture was at when we were young. Wild and young, just like one of the lyrics from the first season of the NXT reality show. So there's an obscure reference.
That's right, I forgot it was like that. It was like Tough Enough for a while, wasn't it?
It was more like a reality show where they had to do competitions and stuff. But that's many years down the future.
Right.
You're talking 2008, we're in 1993, so we got about 10 years, 15 years.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I don't see us getting into it in the next couple decades. So, and then we're going to do a thing. We haven't come up with the name of the segment yet. Everybody's ideas, let me know. Where we're going to give each other something fun to watch. Try something different because we're trying to expand both our horizons when it comes to stuff we view. Because I'm a big action, comedy, horror fan, that sort of thing. Boct's a big anime fan and a lot of foreign material. Which I may not necessarily always give him a horror movie. He may not necessarily always give me an anime. Something that we've seen that we just want them to watch. They may not like it, but we want them to watch so we can expand both our horizons.
We're sharing what we love with each other.
Exactly. You know what? Let's just hop into that part right now.
Alrighty.
So basically what we're going to do is we'll give our gifts to the other, and then the next week's episode we'll go over what we thought of it and then continue the process.
Sounds good.
So, Big Boct, sir, I'm giving you a new movie. Came out this year.
Okay.
I've already seen it. For those that follow me on Letterboxd, I give it a 3.5 out of 5. Came out this year. It is on Peacock now. I challenge you to watch Cocaine Bear.
Somehow I knew that was going to be it when you said 3.5 out of 5 because you said the same thing last week.
Actually, there was a lot of that's my most used score so far in Letterboxd is 3.5, so that's about my average.
I gotcha.
Yes, sir. I want you to watch Cocaine Bear.
I will do that.
It is for those that haven't seen it. Basically, some drugs get dropped out of a plane. This is supposedly based on a true story. I mean, it is, but there's obviously fantastical lies, if you will.
It's embellished.
Thank you. It's actually one of Ray Liotta's last films before he passed away.
Oh, really? I didn't realize he died.
Oh, he died about a year or two ago. I think there's another movie coming out is up there. This was one of his last movies.
Okay.
A big fan of him, especially if you've seen like Goodfellas and that sort of thing. He's been in a bunch of stuff. He was a great actor.
He was amazing as Tommy Vercetti in GTA Vice City.
Oh, it was my favorite Vice City until it's in my top 3. We'll put it that way.
Gotcha.
Vice City, San Andreas, and 5 are my top 3. 5's my favorite.
Yeah, I haven't played GTA 5 Story, but I was hyper-focusing on the online for a while.
Story's amazing. So yeah, like I said, Vice City, 5, San Andreas, those are my favorite Grand Theft Autos. I love any kind of open world thing you can get lost in.
Yeah, San Andreas was so much fun back in the day.
Oh, it was great. My guy was a vegetarian, so he was always jacked. He never had the hamburgers. No, seriously. So basically what happens is some cocaine gets dropped over a forest before people realize it, and a bear gets a hold of it, So it's about a coked out bear that mauls people for an hour and a half. And it does get bloody at points. It's hilarious. And all I'm going to say is my favorite part, and you'll get to once you realize what it is, the ambulance chase.
Oh, boy.
Yes, bear versus ambulance. But it's a good movie. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. Me and our mutual friend, our close friend, we went to go see it together. We both loved it. Because basically this is what it is. It's called Cocaine Bear. And if you go in there expecting you're going to see a bear hopped up on cocaine mauling people for 90 minutes.
Right.
If that's what you're looking for when you go in there, you're going to have a great time. If you're expecting anything else, any kind of A24 level movie, you're going to get disappointed. Just go in there knowing you're going to watch a coked out bear kill people for 90 minutes.
Right.
It's great. It's great. And you can find it on Peacock right now. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what do you got for me, sir?
For you, I have an anime called Hyouka. Hyouka.
All right. Where can people find that if they want to join along with us?
That can be found on Crunchyroll.
Okay, and give us a little synopsis about it.
The elevator pitch, as I'd put it, is it follows a group of kids reviving their high school's classic literature club and solving little mysteries along the way.
Oh, okay. So it's a less creepy, scary, frightening Doki Doki Literature Club?
I actually haven't played Doki Doki, but sure, why not?
Okay, try that one. Have some fun with that.
Like, I downloaded the OG, I just haven't played it yet.
Go in blind. You'll thank me later.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead. So you can find Cocaine Bear on Peacock, and you said you can find
Hyouka can be found on Crunchyroll.
Okay, so how many episodes is that?
It is 22 episodes, but I'm going to say you can just watch the first 5. That wraps up the first story arc.
But that's what I'm saying. Is like if we're doing each other a series, like I have movie ideas and sign because I'm a big more into movies over series, and I think you're in reverse on that.
Yeah.
We're not going to expect each other to watch 30, 40, 50 episodes in a week. We have lives and many, many, many projects in the works right now.
Indeed.
So, well, we'll do basically, a couple hours here a week, couple hours there. We may not like what the other person gave us, but we're trying to expand our horizons, because I know next to nothing about anime.
We're sharing what we love with each other.
Exactly. So, okay, so we will bring that back here to the segment next week, and then I'll bring him another movie, and then we'll continue with the series until I finish that. Then, he'll give me something else. And once again, we will put trailers to this stuff, and where you can find it on Twitter, so you guys can join along with us if you want. Put your reactions in the comments or tweet at us any of our 3 Twitter pages about what you guys thought. So, as what we're watching now, sir, what are you working on?
As I mentioned last week, I'm on Tonikawa, Over the Moon for You. It's a nice little slice of life series.
Okay.
I have 2 Cute Crisis ready to watch, but I just kind of have stalled on it.
We've all been there when it comes to watching shows, especially when you're watching multiple shows.
I've been watching a lot of YouTube lately.
Okay, anything in particular?
Yeah, I've got a couple channels I go to consistently. LGR does a lot of classic computing stuff. He does classic builds, modern builds, and he also looks at like odd tech. Like one of the things he did recently on that series LGR Oddware was a home automation system for MS-DOS in the 90s.
Huh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. One of the other YouTube channels I follow is Technology Connections. He talks about technologies and how they connect to each other, obviously.
Sure.
And the third one I go to most often is Robert Dunn of Aging Wheels. He makes videos about cars. Right now, he's electro-converting a Ford Escape to run on 2 Tesla large drive units, both of which put out 450 horsepower.
A little scooter. We'll be scooting along pretty well.
So what have you got on your plate, Xander?
Okay, well, movie-wise, I haven't watched anything recently. I just spent some time at my parents' house, so we watched Gran Torino the other night.
That's a Clint Eastwood movie, right?
It's fantastic. If you guys haven't watched that, I highly recommend that. It's actually one of my favorites of his.
It's one of those that I've heard good things, I've just never felt the need to seek it out.
I would recommend seeking it out, not even for this show, just for your own enjoyment. It's an absolutely fantastic movie.
Gotcha.
And then I'm still working on... I'm trying to find time to watch Katie and Lacey again, because once again, we have no free time between you and I.
Yeah, we both got a lot on our plate.
Absolutely. I'm about almost done with season 2 of Blue Mountain State. Once again, love that show. A lot of wrestling references on that one. Obviously, it was on Spike TV during that time frame. The song Hell Yeah by Rev Theory actually had a late WWE Diva Ashley Massaro is actually in the video for that song, which is the theme song of the show. Stacy Keibler is in an episode playing. It's in a fantasy flash forward episode. Stacy Keibler does an appearance, and there's a episode where they. I think it's in the season two, where they parody the Shawshank Redemption, and one of the guys is wearing a TNA shirt.
I see.
Because this is when Impact was still TNA and it was on Spike. But it's not, you don't have to watch it for wrestling. Like, football fans, Bill Romanowski does an episode. Brian Bosworth does an episode. So, it's very funny. Football fans are going to enjoy it. Actually, if Season 1 had a very early Stephen Amell pre-Arrow.
Oh, wow.
I didn't realize he was in it until I had started watching it again. Because first run, I wasn't aware of who Stephen Amell was, so it didn't register.
Right.
At this point, once I found it on YouTube, or excuse me, at Netflix at the time, it's on Tubi now. I was like, oh, shit, Stephen Amell. I liked him in Arrow.
Cool.
And then, YouTube-wise, myself, we've seen some of these. Like, I'm a big eating fan. Like, I like Beard versus Food, which is fantastic.
Beard Meets Food, I thought he was called.
Yeah, Beard Meets Food. I was thinking Man versus Food, which was an awesome show in itself.
Right.
And then there's another one. I go, when it comes to food challenge videos, I go for volume over heat, as opposed like the spicy challenges.
Big meals.
Yeah. So there's a guy I like called Eric the Electric. It's Eric with a K, the Electric. Mm-hmm. Dude's in phenomenal shape, and he does these gigantic, massive challenges. And one of the most recent ones is he's friends with the mukbang YouTuber Nikocado Avocado. He does a lot of the mukbangs and that sort of thing. So Eric did a challenge where he had to eat 3 of them in 24 hours.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. And then if he didn't finish it, and he gave himself a random time limit, and if he didn't finish it, he had to add a second mukbang to the next meal.
Oh, God.
It was insane. That one, and this guy's he'll show you like all the, like, macros, like your sugars and your sodiums, how much he's putting in, and then how much weight he gains for these challenges.
Neat.
And he has massive ones. One of my favorite ones he did a while back is he took a lot of, like, the strong... Like, I'm a big fan of strongman competitions. Like, the World's Strongest Man competitions. I used to watch them a lot.
Right.
So he took... Oh, here's these 3 famous strongmen. I'm going to eat like they do in a day, but I'm eat all 3 of their meals.
Oh, wow.
And he ate like that for the whole day.
Yee.
Like, and it's... He does crazy stuff. He did multiple Rock cheat meals in one day. Like, it's... The stuff he does, I'm surprised he doesn't just... But, and then the usual stuff, I'm a big... I watch a lot of, like, video game and YouTube videos that a lot of people here watch, What Culture, Cultaholic. I watch those all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Horror fans know I watch Dead Meat a lot. They just released a new kill count where they did the movie Frogs, starring Sam Elliott that was so young he didn't even have a mustache yet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This was 72.
Wow, 51 years.
Yeah, and he was so young, not only was his hair not gray, he didn't even have a mustache.
Right. So
that's what we're watching, that's what we're gonna watch. You guys have any recommendations for us? Obviously drop them in the comments. Hit us up on any of the 3, on my Twitter, his Boct Twitter, or the podcast Twitter page. We're always open to suggestions.
Anytime.
Absolutely. So, we got that part of the pop culture out of the way. We're going to go into the wrestling part. And we're doing Monday Night Raw from April 5th, 1993. And then we're also doing WCW Saturday Night from April 10th, 1993. So, and this is the Fallout. This is the day after WrestleMania. Now, I know, you realize, Bob, you've only been watching recently, overall, that usually the night after WrestleMania on, like, usually Raws, and then when we get to SmackDowns, is a huge deal.
Oh, yeah, like, new debuts, Fallout.
Big returns, like when Brock Lesnar came back, I want to say in 2012, that was a huge deal.
Right.
That sort of thing. Edge's retirement was the night after WrestleMania that year. So, yeah, you don't get any of this.
Yeah, this was just a normal episode of Raw.
Yeah, and this was, the whole Raw after WrestleMania big deal thing was kind of a relatively new concept. So yeah, we're at the Manhattan Center again. Like, within the next few weeks, we'll start gradually moving to other arenas in the area. Like, they don't even leave Manhattan Center until 97. So, fully until 97. We go straight into the intro video, like, boom, no cold open, no nothing, straight into the intro video. Macho Man and Vince are going to intro the show, mentioning WrestleMania from last night, how awesome it was.
It wasn't.
And then they're going over the show tonight, some of the big matches. And we're going to go ahead right away into our first match with Virgil versus Bam Bam Bigelow. And they kind of shafted Bam Bam Bigelow on this match. Not because he's wrestling Virgil. They didn't talk shit about this match.
Yeah, this was... Not a lot got said about what was going on.
And Bam Bam's one of my favorite big men. Even back in the mid-'80s, early 80s, he was... That guy that size was doing cartwheels, moonsaults, slingshots. And he was very agile up until, towards the end of his career. He was that agile.
How close are we to that end right now?
Oh, we still got a good 10 years or so. He was at the very end of WCW.
Gotcha.
When he left WWE, he went into ECW for a while, and then he went back to WCW, and he was there till the end. But he actually, once he leaves WWF, he doesn't come back to WWF at all.
Okay.
I don't think he's in the Hall of Fame yet. He should be, because he's up there with me with Vader's some of my favorite big men is like guys like him, Vader, Stan Hansen, Bruiser Brody. Like anybody that knows me knows that's my style. And when you got big men like that.
Is Bigelow still around?
No, he passed away.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, he actually, speaking of Vader, he was actually a tag team champion in Japan with Vader.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So basically, we're talking more about Bam Bam than they talked about in this match. A lot of it was about Hogan winning the title. A lot of Virgil sucks chants. I noticed that.
Yeah, Virgil's in control of this for quite a while, just ringing Bigelow's left arm and just not a whole lot more.
Yeah, well, Virgil wasn't the best, but you gotta remember, Virgil was the good guy in this match, and the crowd's like, no, you suck.
Yeah, that was another story in this episode. I had trouble telling who was on which side of the face-heel dynamic.
Virgil was the good guy. So he's in control for the first part. He goes for a crucifix, and Bigelow just splats him with a Samoan drop.
Oh, that's what that was.
Yeah, and then the crucifix, yeah. Because, they got their arms strapped so it looks like they're on a crucifix.
Right.
It's called a crucifix. And then at one point, Vince says, WrestleMania 9 will go down as one of the greatest ever. And I'm like, okay, boomer.
False.
Press X to doubt.
Press F to pay respects.
Yeah, not even. We talk about how bad this is last episode. But yeah, once Bam Bam takes over, it's Bam Bam basically the rest of the match. Good news is, Rob Bartlett's not in the arena. Not in the arena.
They're playing it up like he's stuck in Vegas, lost everything gambling.
Oh no.
Anyway.
So bad. Yeah. It's like that one joke. Oh no. Anyway, that gif. Put this gif here and you'll get the, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, we get to the point where Virgil gets a clothesline and a nice top rope drop kick. He gets a near fall. He goes for a crossbody. Bam Bam dodges it, hits a clothesline and his top rope headbutt for the win.
And that was 7 minutes on the nose.
This actually wasn't a bad match.
It wasn't. It's just the commentary didn't care, and that made it harder to watch.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this when we get to WCW Saturday Night. They actually had somebody come out that wasn't part of the match talk while the finish happened. So you'll remember once we get to that match.
Yeah.
So we get Jerry the King Lawler, who's coming out for his Raw debut. He's actually part of the commentary team for WWF Superstars. He's coming out for his in-ring debut on Raw. And they start a Burger King chant, and I'm like, and leave it to me to think about, why just Burger King? Why couldn't you be in, like, King Friday? You want to do the Mr. Rogers reference, call him King Friday. Which they actually do a Mr. Rogers reference in WCW. For your heavy metal fans, you could have started a King Diamond chant. For your malt liquor and obscure Marvel villain teams, King Cobra. King Cobra was a member of the Serpent Society. For poor kids like me who ate poor kid cereal growing up, King Vitamin. Like, there's so many, like, they only ever use Burger King. Like, or if you want to go into the future, talk about Wreck-It Ralph, King Candy.
Well then.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lawler just nopes out at the Burger King chants.
I kind of like this, though. He's like, you guys, if you don't stop, I'm going to leave. They didn't stop, so he left. And I was like, I'm okay with that. That was kind of cool.
I agree. It was a funny spot.
Yeah. And then we go back to the Mean Gene. For some reason, they still have a WrestleMania 9 backdrop. I'm thinking they might have done this after the pay-per-view, even though Gene's not in his badass pimp toga from last week. Fuji's making a formal complaint with Jack Tunney, who is the kayfabe president of WWF. He's saying, this wasn't even though Fuji is the one that put up the title for Hulk Hogan, this was not a sanctioned match and no contract was signed, so it shouldn't count.
Nice backpedal.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a heel manager. That's what he's going to do. He's like, oh, that didn't work out the way we wanted, so obviously we can't do it like that. Like, I get it.
Right.
It made sense.
Yeah.
So we'll see the fallout for that. We get into our second match of the show. Bob Backlund versus Kimchi. For those that don't remember, Kimchi was one of the managers, the handler of Kamala. And Kamala turned face like right before the beginning of Raw, so a few months ago. And at this point of the show, at this point in timeline, under the mask, Kimchi is Steve Lombardi, who most people know as the Brooklyn Brawler.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he would be the Brooklyn Brawler. You would see him as Kimchi. He was Abe Knuckleball Schwartz. We'll get into that character during the 94 when they had the baseball strike. But yeah, he had been around. He was in the WWFE, whatever, for decades. He recently left a handful of years ago.
Okay.
But this was him under a mask. And basically, Backlund doing his Backlund things, doing his little quick ins and outs, moving around, frustrating Kimchi for the first couple minutes. And until Kimchi gets a cheap shot in, body slams him a couple times. And then we get a sunset flip and a chinlock from Kimchi. He's in control for the good middle part of the match before Backlund gets a pretty nice back suplex on him.
Yeah, that was a good spot.
Yeah, and then we get a quick exchange, and this was like a real short match. We get a quick exchange, and then Backlund gets a modified jackknife pin in for the quick win.
And that was 4 minutes on the nose.
Once again, I liked it. This wasn't a bad match, even for a squash match. We give Backlund a little bit more momentum after dropping that horrendous match at WrestleMania the night before.
Yeah, on the whole, this Raw is just completely average. Not a lot to say.
No, it was good, nothing bad, but, I mean, it was average, but nothing, there was some good stuff, but there was nothing bad in it.
Right, yeah, that's what I meant.
And then we come out for another match, our third of 5, actually. There were actually 5 matches in this hour. Jumpin' Jim Brunzell versus Damien Demento, who we haven't seen since the first episode. He was in the Royal Rumble, but we haven't seen him on TV since the first episode of Raw where he lost to The Undertaker. And you really wouldn't see much more on TV after this. He would do mainly house shows before he left WWE. And for those that do watch older wrestling, especially like me who grew up around that time or watches a lot of older stuff, we all know who Jumpin' Jim Brunzell is.
I do not know who he is.
Okay, for those that don't know, for those that do know like me who's been watching since the early to mid-'80s, Jumpin' Jim Brunzell, we know who he is. For those like Boct who are not familiar, Jumpin' Jim Brunzell, a longtime wrestler who actually started up in the AWA in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. Most people know him as a member of the Killer Bees tag team with him and B. Brian Blair. They were known as the Killer Bees in the mid-'80s, especially the beginning of the whole rock and wrestling, early WrestleMania time frame. We're a tag team. They were a really great mid-level, mid-card tag team where very athletic. And we saw Jim Brunzell still at this point was very athletic. They would wear black and white. They didn't have a B gimmick. They weren't buzzing around and have stingers on their ass or anything. But they would have black and white striped trunks, like B stripes. Mm-hmm. And they would always do this prototype twin magic where they were unmasked as a tag team, but whenever they would want to do a switcheroo, they would both put on yellow and black masks. So they would be like, "Oh, I'm hurt. I have my mask on. I'm going to do a quick switch out."
I see.
That was the thing they did. Like I said, they were a pretty popular mid-card tag team at the time. Blair has already left at this point, so a lot of times what they would do with the wrestlers that are slowly winding down, they would kind of make them more of the cannon fodder or helping the new guys get over type thing, and this is what we see here. And the best part about this is we do get a phone call from Rob Bartlett. Stuck in Vegas, he wants money. And I was like, oh, he's stuck in Vegas and he's broke. ... Shame.
Yeah, the whole, oh no. Anyway, again.
Yeah, once again, the same gif. I love that gif, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Brunzell actually damn near won early on. He had a quick small packet and sunset flip. Damn near won.
Yeah, that was another good spot in this match.
Yeah, and then Damien Demento finally takes over, gets some stomps on Brunzell in the corner, keeps working him over in the corner before Brunzell comes up and kicks him in the face. Relatively, we kind of knew going into this who was going to win, but it was still relatively even. Brunzell does get an atomic drop, boxes his ears, and has a very nice drop kick.
Yeah, that drop kick looked great.
Yeah, he was jumping Jim for a reason. Mm-hmm. But then Damien Demento comes back with a neck breaker, knee drop to the face, and then he wins.
And that one took 5 minutes, 6 seconds. And then we have Bartlett calling collect. Wonderful.
Yeah. Yay. Spoiler alert, his last episode's next week.
Oh, thank God.
No, 2 weeks.
Well, you gotta get my hopes up like that.
I forgot it's 2 weeks.
Okay.
But he's gone by the end of April, and he doesn't come back. They basically all but not acknowledge him ever again. So we get Jerry Lawler round 2.
Burger King chance round 2.
Yep, and he leaves round 2. Like, he doesn't even get on the microphone. He's just like, oh, I'm out. I don't think I found this kind of humorous. He's like, I'm leaving. If you guys don't you do it. They keep doing it, so he's like, all right, I'm out. So we get a tag team match. Beverly Brothers are always a good time to watch against one of my favorites growing up. The only reason I ever cheered for the University of Michigan, the Xander Brothers.
Yeah, the Steiners put on a good match at WrestleMania.
Oh, we both agreed that was our favorite match of the show. So we come in, you got good old Scotty Steiner in there. We love our Steiner graps, the grapples. You know, using that. They were all-American wrestlers for a reason, like legitimately.
And I noticed early in this match, there was a lot of time between them ever doing anything.
Yeah, like I got like a good feeling about this. Was obviously usually like we talked about this at the beginning of the podcast. When you have the two quote-unquote names on either side, whether it's singles or tag team, this is usually going to be the longer match of the show.
Right.
Because you're getting the two names, if you will. You know, obviously, the Steiner Brothers are towards the top of the pecking order in the tag team. Beverly Brothers are somewhere near the middle. They were always kind of a mid-card tag team. Mm-hmm. Bo keeps calling hair pulls until he takes over with a slam and a short takeover with a hair pull of his own. And then Scott gets that Tiger Driver that we talked about last week on our WrestleMania episode.
Yeah, I actually recognized it this time, so that feels good.
There you go. Good boy. So Blake tags in, starts working over Rick a little bit, and then Scott grabs him, and I'm like, oh, crap, was he doing a bear hug? And he's like, nope, no team overhead, belly to belly, kind of like delayed overhead belly to belly, which is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. And then we get the Beverly Brothers, do some double team. We do that double team that we talked about last time they were on.
Yeah, the non-active face engages the ref while the heels do dirty tricks.
Well, no, I was talking about, other than that, the specific double team move they did that you would see Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin use when they were the world's greatest tag team.
Ah.
The whole when they leapfrog under the guy's back. Yeah, we saw this again.
Okay.
We'd get that, and then we get the classic good guys get the tag, but the ref doesn't see it, so it doesn't count. Because we're chomping at the bit. And then Scott, they go to suplex Scott, but he counters the vertical suplex with his own, but still can't tag in. He's been beat up quite a bit. He finally gets a really nice tilt-a-whirl slam in. Tags in Rick, gets the hot tag. Scott gets back in. Rick throws some stunner lines. Scott gets back in. Spikes. It looked like he spiked one of those Beverly Brothers with the Frankensteiner for the win.
Yeah, that one took 8 minutes 54. That was, again, a pretty good match.
Yeah. And I think I went a little bit longer, but obviously we don't have commercial time, so we're just going by the time that we get just from the show itself.
Right.
Because we can't account for commercial time because we don't know exactly how long the commercials were. Mm-hmm. So at least on screen, we had 8 minutes of wrestling on screen.
Yes.
So that way, if people are noticing the time difference, that's why. And then we get Jerry Lawler, round 3, but he has graps this time. He goes up against Jim Powers, and this is kind of like the same thing we had with Jim Brunzell earlier in the episode, where he was part of a semi-successful tag team at one point earlier in WWEF. Mm-hmm. Him and Paul Roma were known as the Young Stallions, which was actually, the name was given to them actually by Bruno Sammartino by accident. He was watching them do a tag team, and he just called them he's like, look at those couple Young Stallions out there.
Neat.
And that's where they got the name. The basic claims to fame for the Young Stallions, and we'll see Paul Roma in WCW here very soon, but the claim of fame for the Young Stallions in WWF were in the 88 Survivor Series. They had a massive, I think it was a massive five tag teams on each side, so it was like a big 20-man tag team match. It was a whole big, huge thing.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it was huge. There was next to no room to run the ropes. But it was like all the tag teams against each other. And they were one of the last two. Their side won, and they were one of the last two teams left.
Gotcha.
And then also, the first ever Royal Rumble, which 1 was called the Rumble Royale, 2 was only a 20-man Royal Rumble, and 3 was not on pay-per-view, it was on USA.
Huh.
89's was actually, or the second one, 89's was actually the first one on pay-per-view. They were in the main event, and the Royal Rumble was not the main event.
Huh.
It was actually a 2 out of 3 falls tag match where it was the Young Stallions versus the Islanders. The Islanders won 2 straight falls, and then that was basically the end of the Young Stallions.
Gotcha.
Paul Roma would go on to Power and Glory, which I kind of dug them, and then he would go on to WCW, and then this was basically what Jim Powers would do You know, guys like this, they would get, like, the preliminary matches where they would win against the enhancement guys, or they would open, like, house shows, or they would beat the, you know, the no-name guys that are coming in.
Gotcha.
But then usually they would lose to, like, the guys higher up on the card.
Right.
So he's going up against Jerry Lawler, as Jerry Lawler's doing all his stuff. Powers attacks him. He goes to powder out as the Burger King chants start again. This is basically Jim Powers for the first part of it. And Powers is basically in full control until he whiffs a dropkick.
Jimmy hits a back body drop at some point and then goes for a drop. Yeah, Lawler's able to stop short for the drop kick.
Yeah, no, he blocked the dropkick, and then Lawler looks over to Randy Savage, which is basically his commentary partner, has words.
Right.
And I kind of like this whole Jim Powers blocks a running fit. Like, Jerry Lawler's going to run and punch him, so he just kicks him in the face.
Yow.
Which is kind of reminds me of the whole Community reference, the whole kick puncher and punch kicker.
I see.
Community reference, if you guys seen Community, you know what I'm talking about between kick puncher and punch kicker.
I've seen parts of the first season, but never really gotten into it.
Oh, the show's amazing.
So I've heard.
But, yeah, so Jerry Lawler blocks Jim Powers again, hits his pile driver, gets a handful of tights as Jerry Lawler wins.
Alrighty, that was 6 minutes and 16 seconds. And we post-match, Lawler was calling out Randy Savage.
Yeah, before we get to that, I just want to know, is like, Jerry Lawler, his finisher was always the pile driver. He's considered to have one of the best pile drivers of all time. We'll see the other one who had one of the best ones after here, basically the first match at WCW. He was known as the pile driver. He had the pile driver as his finisher. And I get you're the bad guy, but why would you hit your finisher that you're known for? Considered one of the best pile drivers ever, but then you hook the tights for the win.
Yeah, now that you've actually put that into words, like, you're right. Why would you cheapen it like that?
It would almost, to me, and I'm sure there was a reason before, like I said, I don't know wrestling like Jerry Lawler does. But to me, it looked like it would be like if Stone Cold hit the stunner. We know the match is over, but then he hooked the tights anyways.
Right.
Yeah, so post-match, Jerry Lawler has some words with Randy Savage, basically saying, I'm going to do it to you too. Vince has a mic, so they can basically trash talk each other. Nothing happens. Like, there's no attacks or any fights post-match. So we'll see where this goes. So basically, this is the end of Monday Night Raw. Vince does announce next week that Money Inc. versus the Bushwhackers will happen. Spoiler alert, no it doesn't. Yeah, and that's Monday Night Raw that's the fantastic Raw after WrestleMania for WrestleMania 9. Actually, it was better than WrestleMania 9, first of all.
Yes, it was.
Which honestly wasn't that hard.
Yeah, that bar was pretty damn low.
Yeah, honestly, my match of the night on this was easy. Like, none of the matches were bad, but it's easily Beverly Brothers versus the Steiner Brothers.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that one.
Yeah, like, the other matches weren't bad, but this was the only competitive match. Yeah, so that's Monday Night Raw. So we're going to get to WCW Saturday Night, which was April 10th, 1993. And speaking of pile drivers, we open up right away with Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff versus Jumpin' Joey Maggs.
Yeah, Joey's wearing a Paula shirt, and everyone's chanting Paula at Paul, and he's not happy.
No, because he comes out, and during the time, you know, there was a few weeks that we missed, you know, in between the hiatus. Paul Orndorff has won the tournament to become the newly crowned WCW television champion, so he does have that under the robe.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody chants Paula. They have banners. There's t-shirts in the crowd. Joey's actually wearing a t-shirt that says Paula, so he jumps in while Paul's still rolling the robe in the title. He rips off the shirt and starts talking
trash.
He's in the robe. He's talking trash, choking you with the shirt. And this was actually kind of different. Paul Orndorff actually walks over to where Tony Schiavone and Jesse Ventura are doing commentary and starts to bitch about the Paula chants and says he's going to leave. If this shit doesn't stop, he's going to leave. He doesn't care.
And he's also calling out Dustin Rhodes in that same spot.
Yeah. For start, you know, Dustin Rhodes was basically considered the catalyst for the whole Paula thing, at least at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So WCW official Grizzly Smith comes out and goes, yeah, you're not leaving. You signed a contract for this match, and if you leave, we're going to give you a heavy fine.
Yeah, so begrudgingly, he returns to the ring.
Yeah, so he gets in, Joey Maggs jumps him, and actually lands an enziguri and a dropkick, which I was kind of surprised about.
Oh, right, that's what that move is called. I blanked on it when I was watching.
It's the enziguri, which actually stands for back kick in Japanese.
Oh, didn't know that.
Giri's the kick, and then enzu means, you know, from behind.
Mm-hmm, neat.
Yeah, there you go. Now we're teaching you all Japanese. Orndorff comes back with the pile driver, the back suplex, lands that pile driver, which is my all-time favorite pile driver. God, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it looked very good.
Yeah, his pile driver always looked like that. He slaps Joey Maggs a couple times before the pinfall.
And that took 4 minutes, 1 second. Yeah, Paul was in that robe for a lot of this match.
Oh, yeah. And then we talked about how Jerry Lawler had the tights earlier. I like how he did the pile driver and then slapped him before the pin. To me, this made more sense.
I agree. In this case, it made sense because Joey was taunting him with the polo shirt.
And then it was just pissed off. He's like, I gotta wrestle this dude. I'm gonna get fined. So he's like, pile driver, bitch slapped him and comes to the pin. I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it too.
Yeah, and then we announced that Slamboree 1993, which is actually the first ever Slamboree, so we're getting a couple first pay-per-views this year, is coming to the Omni in Atlanta in May. And we'll talk about more about Slamboree later on throughout the show. And we get our next match of the night, Cactus Jack versus Shanghai Pierce.
Yeah, Cactus is out for revenge after being choked out with a bull rope when Cactus Jack was fighting Tex Slazenger last week.
Yeah, I also like that since he's, bang bang, he comes out with foam like 6-shooter revolvers. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was a nice little touch.
I kind of want one of those. And this is kind of about as rough and tumble as, expected. And then I think there's a Animal House reference where Jesse Ventura compares Cactus Jack to Bluto from Animal House, which was played by John Belushi.
Another one I haven't seen.
We'll add that to the list. It's a classic.
Right.
I think that Jesse did a subtle dig at WrestleMania 9 because he compares him to John Belushi, but he's like, we really don't want to see a fat man in a toga.
Yeah, I picked up on that.
I think because they knew there was going to be a rumble scene, there's going to be togas, because obviously these were all recorded weeks ahead of time.
Right.
That there were, either this was like some stuff said in post, or when there's the commentary table. I think that was a dig at WrestleMania 9. Especially, I think that was a dig at Jim Ross.
Yeah, that would make sense because Jim Ross had jumped ship.
Just left, yeah. But I still think he made that Animal House reference just so he could make the dig about the togas. He also mentions that Jesse's got to fly out to LA for a couple days to film a movie with Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes, and I know what movie it is because I love this movie.
I had to look it up though.
Demolition Man. I don't have to look it up, trust me. Demolition Man. Love that movie.
Yet again, heard good things, never seen it myself.
Oh, it's a great early to mid 90s typical that time frame action movie.
Gotcha.
This is where my still to this day crush of Sandra Bullock, who I'm sure listens to the show.
Just keep telling yourself that.
Hey, of course she does. Hi, Sandra, I love you.
Hello.
But this is basically where this movie was one of the couple movies that helped me solidify my still to this day crush over Sandra Bullock. The actually correct answer for the other movie is Speed. If you know, you know.
I see.
So anyways, we come back. Jack goes for the...
Flying nothing.
Flying nothing. He gets nothing out of it. And then Pierce kicks over, gets him up. Pierce hits him with the clothesline. And then while he's distracted, we go for the typical guy on the outside using the bull rope. He's going to choke Cactus Jack behind the ref's back while no one's looking. Cactus finally gets a faceplant, some headbutts in. And they look like they're going to throw Cactus Jack in the turnbuckle because they put the cowbell over it. Cactus Jack reverses it, smashes Shanghai on the cowbell, and then gets the double arm DDT for the win.
5 minutes and 4 seconds. Not a bad match.
No, I liked it. Did what it needed to do. And then we get Tony ringside with Cactus Jack, who's talking about how Cactus Jack has basically ingratiated himself with the crowd recently. Especially we saw that his face turn on. Actually, episode 1 of Dropkicks and Attractions.
I remember that.
It was the Thunderdome match. And then he basically talks about how on Main Event a while back, he damn near beat Vader, actually even hit him with the double arm DDT.
And so he calls out Vader for a title match next week.
I don't know necessarily a title match, but I know he at least called out Vader to fight him next week.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what Vader says later on in the episode. And then we go to our next match, Max Payne versus Ronnie Hagen. By the way, Max has a sweet Metallica shirt on.
Yeah, Jesse Ventura pays compliments to the ring gear, and yeah, he looks very good at this point.
His appearance has very much improved since the beginning of January. He's very cool looking now.
Absolutely.
Playing the guitar, like he legitimately can play the guitar. And for your video game fans, that does sound like Max Payne the video game, the name. By the way, those games are great. I actually really like the third one. He actually sued Rockstar over the name because he's like, hey, Max Payne's my name.
I didn't know that.
I don't know if he had the trademark over it or whatever, but he basically was trying to like, hey, my name's Max Payne. Why are you naming this game Max Payne?
Right.
Match starts. We get a power slam. Almost looked like the running power slam a la British Bulldog for a 2 count. Hagen smashes his head in the corner a few times with no effect. Payne comes back, Back suplex, clothesline, corner splash, painkiller for the tap out win.
1 minute and 20 seconds. Just a quick squash to make Max Payne look good. It did what it needed to do.
Yeah, like this was basically the same. This is basically the same Max Payne match we've seen. Not that we see the same exact order, but then basically we get the quick matches with Max Payne so far since we've done the show, minus the match he had with Dustin Rhodes at Super Bowl, which actually wasn't bad.
Yeah, they're setting him up as a monster heel.
Yeah, and then so we go ringside again. Tony is ringside with the Enforcer, Arn Anderson, who recently came back.
Mm-hmm.
And said he's finally they're talking about main event, which was the show that was on Sunday, so he's saying man-to-man, no interference, no politics, man-to-man, we're going to finish this tomorrow on main event.
Mm-hmm.
With him and Eric Watts. And then he calls out Barry Windham for just, like, sheer disrespect, because for those that don't know, Barry Windham actually used to be a member of the Four Horsemen. He's considered one of the best, greatest, matter of fact, he was one of the members of the Four Horsemen. He was a part of the Four Horsemen that was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. So he actually is in the Hall of Fame of the Four Horsemen.
Didn't know that.
He was part of the crowd that was there for that. So, like, the way he did, Ric Flair disrespected him after he won the NWA title at Super Brawl. So he's like, hey, I've never had the shot at the world title. I'm going to basically, don't bite the hand that feeds you, I'm coming for you. So he's going to call out, Arn's calling out Barry Windham for a shot at the title.
Right.
And then we get our next match. I actually really like this. For as short as it was, I rather enjoyed this. We get Ravishing Rick Rude, who I'm a big fan of, versus Paul Diamond. And the reason I love this is we played I think Rick Rude actually had kind of like boss-ass WCW theme music, at least at the time.
Mm-hmm.
He just strolls in, takes off his robe, drops the dude with the DDT like nothing.
Like splat.
He was just like, boop, bop. I thought that was kind of funny. He's just like, I'm not even going to pose, not going to shake my hips. Boom. And then while he's throwing the dude around a little bit, we get some pre-recorded comments talking about, he's calling out Dustin Rhodes in the U.S. title because Rick Rude had to give up the title via injury. So he's like, hey, look, I was never pinned for it. I should still be the champion. I'm coming for the U.S. title.
Then he hits the Rude Awakening, and Diamond is out at 59 seconds.
Exactly. And this was awesome. For a sub 1 minute match, I had a lot of fun watching this.
I agree. Complete smash. Not even a squash, a smash.
It was just a funny way he did it. He just walked in, took off the rope, DDT, throw him around, brutal awakening, I'm out. It was... Sometimes that's all you need, and it was great. This one was like less about the match and more about Rick Rude coming for the title. I think the match was... This was almost one of those things where the match is part of a segment, but it's not really an official match. You've seen those, you know what I'm talking about. I think this is kind of what they were doing with this. And then we get Dusty Rhodes with the Slamboree moment. We're going to promote the first Slamboree, where they bring in a lot of the legends of the past to bring them out. We're going to see in Slamboree, some of them have matches, and then we do a lot of WCW Hall of Fame, we're going to bring out the legends for respect and everything. This is really cool. And he mentions the first three. We get former world champion Gene Kiniski, that's going to be there. Wahoo McDaniel is going to be there. And Mr. Wrestling 2. And Dusty says, next week I'll announce some more. And I'm just thinking about while I'm watching this, and I'm like, God, I fucking miss Dusty Rhodes. Like, I know you don't have a lot of love for Dusty, as I do.
He was before my time, that's all there is to it.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, but you know, you watch some of his promos and just the matches and just what he was able to do, you're just like, fuck.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll gain appreciation for him as we do this show.
Matter of fact, look up the Hard Times promo. That's all I'm saying. Look up the Hard Times promo, and he was doing stuff like that on the regular. And then just look up his matches on Peacock or on WWE. Like, it's just, you'll see why everybody loves Dusty Rhodes. So, and then we talked about this earlier on Raw, where we talked about the, where people are talking over a match, and then we was like, well, there's a match on WCW Saturday Night where somebody not involved in the match talks over the match, and we don't even acknowledge the finish. And on paper, this is actually a really good tag team I never thought of before. I like them. Is Chris Benoit and beautiful Bobby Eaton, because Bobby Eaton was known as one of the greatest tag team wrestlers of all time. I didn't get to watch a lot of his stuff new as the Midnight Express. Like, obviously, you can find it on YouTube, Peacock, or whatever. Midnight Express, great tag team. I'm remembering more from, like, the Dangerous Alliance and everything after that. But big fan of Bobby Eaton. Severely underrated at all. Just the fact of Benoit and Eaton together as tag team, love it. And in the ring already is the established tag team of Tom Zank, the Z-Man, and Johnny Gunn.
And I noted throughout this match was very, very fast movement.
Oh yeah, like Tom Zank was always was one of those quicker cruiserweight, light heavyweight type guys. Johnny Gunn could move like that. We know how smash mouth and fast Benoit was. And then Bobby Eaton was surprisingly fast for his look. He doesn't seem like he was a quick guy, or just off appearance, he doesn't look like it. Very snappy. Very snappy. Bobby Eaton is so underrated. Like, honestly, if people don't understand, just look up Bobby Eaton in general. You're not going to be disappointed. So, Gunn and Benoit trade a little bit. We basically get Gunn and Benoit trade a little bit, and then Eaton and Zank tagging in a little bit. So, we kind of everybody gets their stuff in real quick, very beginning. And then it goes back and forth. The good Zank and Gunn are in control until blind tag by Benoit, who clotheslines Zank from behind. It's kind of just...
Yeah, it turns into a brawl pretty quick after that.
Yeah, so Johnny Gunn comes in, and Eaton and Benoit hit him with this really cool, like, combo torture rack neck breaker double team move that looked really cool. I wasn't expecting that, actually. From, like, a team that doesn't tag before, it was cool. So Zank, we're going back and forth. The bad guys are controlled. Zank comes in and starts chopping Benoit and Eaton, and I'm just thinking, like, he's laying it on Benoit, and I'm like, oh, God, I know later on Benoit used to be able to chop the shit out of people. I'm just like, oh, God. I was waiting for Benoit to recede him, and I'm like, oh. We know how Benoit could chop the shit out of people. And this is where we talk over the finish. Here comes Barry Windham, who comes out randomly during the match to talk to Tony Schiavone about Arn Anderson.
He got the whole ass promo here.
Yeah, wow. Not the only one he cuts tonight, either. And we're almost at the end of the show. So, Barry Windham, and I'm going to have to really explain this really weird because both of these things happen at the same time. So, Barry Windham comes out to randomly talk to Tony Schiavone about Arn Anderson. Basically, the whole promo during the rest of the match, he's talking about how he's not hard to find. If Arn wants to find him, he knows where to find him. So, while this is going on, you got to remember, all this is going on at the same time. Zank has Chris Benoit covered. Eaton comes off with the Alabama Jam, which was his finishing move. He used to do a top rope. It was just a top rope leg drop, but he called it the Alabama Jam because he was from Alabama. So he hits Alabama Jam. Benoit covers Zank. Bad guys win.
Yeah, that was 2 minutes 57, and that was another one where I was confused on who was on which side of the face-heel dynamic.
Was that really that short? Huh.
Yeah, like I timed it from bell to bell, 23:52 to 26:49 on the streaming on Peacock.
Huh. No, I'm not saying that you're wrong. It just seemed like it went longer, but not in a bad way. It seemed like it was a longer match than I thought it was. I'm actually surprised it was as short as it was. Because that was very dense. So, like, I'm going to use your word. It was very dense. It flowed very well. Everybody equally got stuff, and I just didn't realize it was as short as it was. Because you're our timekeeper. I acquiesce to you when it comes to time. You're our timekeeper. It just seemed longer than it was, but not in a bad way. I'm honestly surprised it was as short. So, we go into our next to last interview of the night. Tony Schiavone's at the interview area with what my favorite big man of all time, Hall of Famer. Actually, they're both Hall of Famers. Big Van Vader with his manager, Harley Race. By the way, if you guys haven't watched Harley Race wrestle, because when I was a kid, this is how I was introduced to Harley Race, as Vader's manager. Look up Harley Race wrestling matches. He is so good. One of those old school tough can, like, don't get in a fight with him in real life. He will fuck you up. We also see here he was amazing on the microphone. Basically, Vader speaks only as Vader can. He agrees he's going to fight Cactus next week on WCW Saturday Night. And unlike Raw, that match actually happens.
Yay!
That match is actually our main event next week.
Awesome.
And then Harley speaks, waxes poetic only as Harley Race can. Basically, he says he's going to eat the shovel. Eat your shovel, then he's going to eat you. I love this. And then we get into the main event of WCW Saturday Night and the main event of our program today. There's a tag team match with Marcus Alexander Bagwell and one of our favorites. This is a new tag team, but it's Marcus Alexander Bagwell and one of our favorites, who is
Too Cold Scorpio.
Too Cold Scorpio. Both of us are huge Too Cold Scorpio fans, especially around this time.
Oh, yes.
Versus the Wrecking Crew. Yeah, you discovered how much... you discovered Too Cold Scorpio, like, recently. I remember watching him as a kid. We just realized this guy is so good, so innovative, and I would think underrated. Because he was doing shit that they're doing now, but in 93.
Yeah, doing this podcast with you is what introduced me to him, and I'm glad I did.
Like I said, the stuff he was doing, they're doing now, and he was doing it in 93 before anybody else was, at least in America.
Right, he was ahead of his time.
Oh, yeah, and he's still wrestling to this day.
Oh, he is? I didn't realize that.
He was just wrestling at WrestleMania weekend.
Wow.
So, we're going up against the Wrecking Crew, who I like too. I do like them, but... So, the Bagwell and Scorpio do their nice little ditty dance, and the Wrecking Crew trying to come up from behind, but they both eat a dropkick.
Well coordinated.
Yeah, very well coordinated. And then we get Bagwell early control, especially with the arms over Fury. And then Bagwell comes in with a dope variation of the Sunset Flip I've never seen before. where Bagwell hops onto the middle rope, and then he does that turn like it looks like you're going to do that crossbody where you spin into the crossbody.
Yeah, he springboards across Fury's back and rolls him into a pin.
Yeah, the sunset flip, but usually that spinning move when they jump usually comes with a crossbody.
Right.
He did it with a sunset flip, and I'm like, oh, that's a cool variation. You usually don't see. Usually you'd leap right at him face to face when you do a sunset flip, like from that high. We've seen Mark Marrow or Johnny B. Bad do it. He kind of did the reverse where he kind of leapt from behind. It's like, ha! And I was like, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was.
But Fury kicks out. We tag in Scorpio. We get a double elbow. He gets a backslide for a 2 count.
Scorpio holds a hammerlock for a bit. Then Fury finally starts getting some offense and tags in Rage.
Rage tags in, but Scorpio uses that speed. He tries to use the strength, but he realizes that's not going to work, so he uses that speed to stay in control as the Cold Twins, the big rivals of the Wrecking Crew, the Cold Twins come out. And I was like, friggin' Twins reference by Jesse Ventura. He's like, I like those twins, but like I like Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger's twins because I can tell them apart. And I was like, it's been 20, 30 years since I've seen Twins, but yeah.
I saw like the first half of that movie and never saw the second half.
Yeah, so I like Twins reference. Like, thanks for making the pop culture references so I don't have to, Jesse. I appreciate you. And then Rage finally takes over. Like, the good half of this is, the faces had the good first half of this, and he chokeslams the shit out of Marcus Bagwell. And then Fury tags in, decimates Bagwell with some heavy blows and a nice power slam. And once again, Wrecking Crew's in control with this. Just sheer raw power. Bagwell's actually able to land another sunset flip, but Fury's trying to wriggle it out, so Scorpio just straight side kicks him right in the chest. But Fury gets right back in control. We see the Cold Twins. They're not interfering. They're staying close to the entrance area, just cheering on the good guys.
Mm-hmm.
Tony's like, oh, this is great. It's the camaraderie. The good guys are cheering the good guys on. Oh, this is great. But while this is going on, Bagwell goes for the crossbody, but just kind of gets the slam. Looks kind of like the world's strongest slam.
Yeah, I got a rope bounce series after this.
Yeah, and then we get the Mr. Rogers talk we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Tony's like, yeah, I used to watch Mr. Rogers, and I'm thinking to myself, I used to watch Mr. Rogers, and I'm sure you did too.
Oh yes, I did.
Oh yeah, I love Mr. Rogers. Fun fact for those sweaters that he wore every day were sewn by his mom.
Really? I didn't know that.
His real life mother sewed all those cardigans for him.
Wow.
And honestly, I'm going to shout out another podcast because I love these guys. If you want to hear a podcast where they talk about Mr. Rogers for about an hour and a half, look up Acid Washed Memories. They have it's one of they only have about a dozen, like 10 or 15 episodes right now. But one of their first episodes was just a wonderful retrospective on Mr. Rogers.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, look up Acid Washed Memories. They also have a wrestling podcast called Our Vantage Point. Super great podcasts. If you're looking for a different take on it than we do, and you want to have wrestling on one podcast and then nostalgia pop culture on the other, look up those guys. They're fantastic. Anyways, both teams get the hot tag, and we get the little scrum. Scorpio's dishing out kicks like he's in a fucking Chuck Norris movie. And then there's some miscommunication. Bagwell takes down one of them, starts punching him in the face as Scorpio hits a picture-perfect, spot-on, perfect placement 450 for the win. You could not have hit that any more exact than that.
Yeah, that was a beautiful finish to a 9-minute, 27-second match. Not bad at all.
No, like this was like you could not have hit that any more pinpoint, like perfect placement. And once again, this was a 450 in 1993. Weren't doing that. So anyways, Tony's ringside with Bagwell and Scorpio. They're basically doing the young hot babyface promo. Yeah, we're doing good. Yeah, woo. You know, we're going all the way. And then they bring out the Cold Twins. They start high-fiving, and Barry Windham comes out. He's like, hey, you rookies. This is my time now. And they're like, no. It's like, hey, you rookies, listen to me. You go get Arn Anderson. Listen to me. I'm Barry Windham, and I'm the champion. You guys are rookies. And then Scorpio's like, nah, bro, we don't have to. He's right behind you. So Arn's standing there, and him and Barry Windham just get in a fight, and they start brawling in the ring as the show ends.
The last shot is Arn Anderson standing tall.
Yeah. So we're putting the wheels in motion for a NWO World Title match between Arn Anderson and Barry Windham, which we'll see very soon. Slamboree. Sorry, I had a cough right there. Slamboree.
I see.
Little obvious.
Just a bit.
So yeah, that's WCW Saturday Night for April 10th. And you know what? These both were very relatively even. Like, neither one of them had bad matches. Neither show had bad matches. Okay, now before we get into our favorites for the week, my match of the night for WCW Saturday Night was actually Bagwell and Too Cold Scorpio versus the Wrecking Crew. I really like that match.
Yeah, that was a good match.
The other tag match was actually really good too, but I think just because, like I said, we're both huge Too Cold Scorpio fans, and I've always liked the big man versus the little man dynamic. Oh, when it does right, it works well, and it worked really well here. You can tell that Bagwell and Scorpio are gelling really well as a tag team. Like, everything about this was great.
Yeah, they clicked.
Very well. Honestly, I'm going to say right now, this was my favorite match of the entire episode. I like this more than the Steiner Brothers match.
I think I like the Steiner match just a little more, but it's a very close one.
Very close. But this one, I just think I liked it a little bit more. And, but yeah, overall, I think I would give both shows a solid B.
I agree. Solid, but not excellent.
No, and we're not saying it's bad because it's not excellent, because there wasn't a bad match. It's just a lot of these were kind of like filler matches. Honestly, WCW, even for the same amount of time, had less filler matches.
For me, at least, looking through this from the perspective of today, when you expect the Raw After Mania to be a big event, it's hard for me to drop that preconception.
Yeah, it's still going to be a few more years before that. And then, honestly, one of my favorite moments one of my favorite moments of the last several episodes was the sub 1 minute Rick Rude match. That was awesome. I kind of giggled at it.
Yeah, that was the epitome of get in, do it, get out.
Yep, I was like, I like the whole, I kind of giggled. I was like, this is kind of cool. It worked. So, one thing we like to do, we didn't do it like I said, we don't do it for the for the pay-per-view episodes. We like to do the top 5 box office for the movies and the top 5 Billboard 100. Is it Billboard 100?
Hot 100.
Hot 100 songs. Just so you can kind of see where we're at, pop culture back then, and when it comes to movies and music. Because I like music, but Box, I think, would say he's a bigger music fan than I am, even though I'm a huge music fan.
Yeah, I listen to it more, I would say.
I listen to it more. I'm also, a massive music fan myself.
Yeah, I listen to Hot 100 stuff more than you do, probably.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with pop music, especially nowadays, but this is basically, I would acquiesce to you for music and vice versa when it comes to movies, because I'm an absolutely gigantic movie fan.
Right.
So, we're going to go, just so you guys can get a time frame of what's going on. We're going to go over the top 5 movies. This is going to be the week of April 2nd to the April 8th of 1993. We actually have 3 debuts on this one, sir.
Oh, really?
Yes. I'm not going to ask you to guess because, like I said, it's been many, many months since we've done this, so I'm sure you have no idea what was in the top 5 before.
No idea whatsoever.
Okay, but number 5. I've seen 3 of these, know of 4, not familiar with the 5th one. I'm a fan of 2 out of the 3 I've seen, and you'll understand once I get to number 4. Anyways, number 5 made $4 million at the box office, $4.8 million for the week, at a total gross of $21.6. Is a movie I'm a big fan of. Once again, early 90s action movies. Point of No Return, starring Bridget Fonda and Gabriel Byrne.
Do not know that one.
This is a remake of a French film called La Femme Nikita, which begat the USA show La Femme Nikita, which begat the UPN show Nikita. Point of No Return is basically the Bridget Fonda version. It's actually a great movie. Great action movie. This is, the French film was called La Femme Nikita, which is where the TV show that you saw in the 90s in USA got the name from. And then they redid it on the CW called Nikita. This is the American version of the French movie. Great action, if you like action movies like I do, a lot of explosions and pew-pews, great movie. Unfortunately, this next one's not a great movie. In 4th place, both of these have been in the box office for 3 weeks. Coming in at $6.4 million with a total gross of $30.6. Do you have any idea, sir?
No idea.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3.
The bad one.
The bad one. And yes, I do have this on VHS, by the way.
I have seen Turtles 3, and it is not good.
It's not good. Even as a gigantic, massive Ninja Turtles fan. When the cartoon debuted, the original cartoon, I was the prime young demographic. I think I was 7 or 8. That cartoon was made for me. I actually met a Ninja Turtle once.
Oh, really? Which one?
Raphael. Okay, technically, small town I grew up in, my mom used to love taking us to different events as a kid, me and my sister. And my mom would give me anything Ninja Turtle related. Well, at one point, they released Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Macaroni and Cheese, which of course I got. So, one of the local grocery stores in the town I grew up in was like, hey, because they released Ninja Turtle Macaroni and Cheese, come meet a Ninja Turtle. So they hired some poor college kid to put on a Raphael suit and take pictures with kids.
Oh, gosh.
So probably somewhere, my mom has a Polaroid of me when I was 7, standing next to some poor college kid dressed as Raphael, meeting a bunch of snot-nosed kids.
And if I can interject for a second, knowing that film is Turtles 3, that explains why Tarzan Boy by Baltimora is at number 56 on this week's Hot 100.
Go Jungle Boy!
Jungle Boy indeed.
Yep, we love Jungle Boy. Okay, so we're in the top 3, and all 3 of these are debuts. So coming in at number 3 with $6.6 million with a total gross of $6.6 million. As a movie I just saw recently a couple years ago, I'm a fan of. It's called The Crush.
Haven't heard of that one.
This is actually, I think, one of, if not Alicia Silverstone's first big movie roles. It also has Carrie Elwes in it. And basically, he moves in, basically it's a thriller. And I don't think anybody dies in it either. I kind of recommend this. You like a good thriller.
Yeah.
Where he moves into a guest house. He's an author. He moves into a guest house. She's the daughter of the people that work in the house, and she tries to seduce him, and stuff happens. It's honestly a pretty good movie. So, that's number 3. Number 2 at $7.4 million with a total gross of $7.4 million. The Walt Disney Pictures, The Adventures of Huck Finn.
Really?
Yeah.
Now that's another Disney movie I haven't seen.
Same. I think it was a live action one. But yeah, that was number 2. And then coming in at number 1 with a total gross of $8.3 million, with a complete total gross of $8.3 million, the Burt Reynolds classic, Cop and a Half.
I know of that one, but I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either. Like, what we're going to do, we'll put up all the trailers for all these movies in on the Twitter, so guys look out for those. But yeah, Cop and a Half, $8.3 million. So we had the 4th and 5th place where it had been in the movies for 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks. 1, 2, and 3 was their debut week, which I like weird things like that. I find interesting. So, that's for this week. Sir, when it comes to that, go ahead and proceed for the songs.
All right, this is the Billboard Hot 100 dated April 10th, 1993.
Okay.
And there is no movement in the top 5. All of these were in the same spot last week.
Okay, go ahead.
Number 5 is Don't Walk Away by Jade.
I'm not familiar with that song.
I am not familiar with it either. I will give it a listen at some point this week, and I'll put my impressions on the Twitter.
Well, that we'll put up the music video anyways, regardless, so everybody can get a chance to see what was going on.
Yeah, that too.
Okay.
Number 4 is I Have Nothing by Whitney Houston, and that's another one I've never heard of.
I do know that one. It's Whitney Houston. It's a good song.
Number 3, Nothing But a G-Thang by Dr. Dre. That was in the top 5 in the last episode we did before our hiatus, so my impressions are already on the Twitter on that one.
Nothing But a G-Thang. I love that song anyways. I'm a big West Coast rap fan anyway, so it's Dr. Dre. It was from The Chronic. It's awesome.
Number 2 is Freak Me by Silk. This is yet another one I don't recognize.
Okay.
And number 1 is Informer by Snow.
Oh, the world's greatest rap song that was ever written.
And again, my impressions of that are already up on the Twitter.
Yeah, well, we'll go ahead and repost them since it's been a long time. We'll go ahead and repost them. We'll at least repost the songs, maybe necessarily with our thoughts, per se, but at least we'll repost the songs so you guys can kind of join with us to see what was hot. And I mentioned this last time. I just want to throw it again. I stream on Twitch, and I had streamed Far Cry 6, which was a lot of fun. And it takes place in some, it's supposed to be South American or Latin American fictional country. And there's actually a Spanish-speaking version of Informer as one of the songs that pops up on the radio.
Oh, that's really neat.
It's sung in Spanish. It's great. So, thank you everybody for coming out. This was actually surprisingly a shorter episode. Not a lot of wrestling.
Not a lot to do. Not a lot to wrestle, but a lot to talk about.
Yeah, which is fine. So we next week will be April 12th, 1993 of Monday Night Raw, and April 17th, 1993 of WCW Saturday Night, which had more wrestling on that one. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 matches on WCW next week.
Oh my gosh.
And then Raw had 4.
Well, I know which show we're going to be talking more about.
Yeah, with the 2 dark matches, but I don't think we're going to really get into the dark matches on Raw. So, and then once again, we'll get his thoughts on Cocaine Bear, and then I'll get the thoughts on the anime he offered to me, and then we'll put the trailers in we'll put trailers in there so if anybody wants to join along, they know where they can find it. Speaking of finding it, you can find our podcast on Twitter at D and A Podcast 1. We are on YouTube. We are on Rumble. We are on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, Good Pods, Plus, anywhere else you guys think we would, fit in at, let us know. Where can we find you, sir?
I can be found at Big Boct, BIGBOCT, on Twitch, on Twitter, and those are the platforms I use the most.
Okay.
How about you, Xander? Where can we find you?
You can find me at Xander and Victus everywhere. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. Also, your movie bus. I'm on Letterboxd. So, until then, thank you, everybody, for once again coming to Season 2, Episode 2. And we will see you guys next week.
See you next mission. Take care.